Howdy guys, it's Joe here, and after looking at Overwatch for so long, I've come to a conclusion about a few characters that I'd like to talk about that's kind of interesting, at least in my own opinion, and this especially applies to this season that we're in right now. And that is the strongest and the weakest characters in Overwatch. But other than, telling you the strongest characters and the weakest characters, I feel like I want to tell you guys the characters that are the strongest and the weakest at the same time. And a lot of times these people are considered just very, very weak. Now, how does this happen? Well, hopefully I can explain this to you just a little bit. Generally in Overwatch, I'd say it's a game that's very different from any other game I played. In the past, there's usually good characters, bad characters, and medium characters. And the bad characters are just kind of outshined by everyone else in the game. But I'd say with this small but unique roster of Overwatch, this kind of changes it up a little bit. There's some characters that are barely ever played, but at the same time, can do what no one else can do higher damage, can do better in certain situations, certain maps, and these are the characters that I feel like can be the strongest characters in the game, while at the same time, if they aren't in their good situations, they can be some of the weakest characters in the game because they're so situational. At least in my own experience in playing a lot of different competitive games, it's very unique and something that I do enjoy about the game, but also something that can be very frustrating. Let me give you a singular example. Let's say that you're playing a character such as Torb, one of the characters that I feel like really fits in this situation. Well, often you'll have your team become quite a bit angry at you, unless you're doing the Torb symmetric combo that works. But other than that, a lot of times your team won't be the happiest with you. They'll be like, he's very inconsistent, he won't do enough damage, and we're not going to do well. But then you can go into the game, plop down your turret, have somebody protect that turret, walk on close range to the tanks, get a headshot with your right click, maybe two, take the tanks out, and carry the game for your team. But at the same time, the competitive match could go completely opposite direction, where everyone targets your turret, kills it, and then when you get close up, you instantly die, and you seem to have absolutely no use. I feel like the thing with all these characters is that they have a lot of counterplay, a lot of stuff that can be done against them, but if the enemy team doesn't pull out that counterplay correctly, they're very strong and they can complete the job that they were put up to. Again, in the Torion example, you can easily kill tanks with your right click, you can kind of snipe some of the back range people with your left click, and as well your turret does give your team some of the highest DPS in the game if it's ignored, or at least some of the highest consistent DPS that never misses. So we could see this really going on over and over in this game. Some other good examples here would be Junkrat. If people happen to be in closed spaces, or if they're in like a Zarya role, or if they're just very clumped up, well, you can shoot in there and do some of the highest DPS in the game, if not the highest DPS, and just go on, and pretty much just burst them to their death. While at the same time, if they're spread apart, you're really not going to do way too much. And as well, if you just can't happen to hit those grenades, you're going to be really quite useless for your team. The thing that's so interesting here, at least in my own opinion, is that these characters can pull off stuff that no one else really can in the game, and can pull off really great plays, but only when the situations are set right. And that's why I think that a lot of people think these guys are very weak, because the situations, more often than not, aren't perfect for these characters. The maps just aren't, favoring them. Maybe players just aren't playing a certain way right now, so these people aren't meta and they aren't played very much. But if it does change up, or if you do happen to know when to go in with your character, when to kind of capitalize with one of these guys, well, you can pull off some of the best plays in the game. As well with, just being good in certain situations, a lot of these characters also feel a certain level of luck into the character. Mainly the people that have projectiles, that being Torion, Junkrat, Hanzo. With these guys, you can shoot at your projectile, and if the opponent happens to walk the right way, well, you're amazing. You just killed him. Well, if they happen to walk the other way, or you just guessed wrong at a certain long range, well, you missed them. I feel like the good thing about these characters is that they can one-shot people. They can take them out. They can pull off plays that no one else can and kill people faster than no one else can. But it does have to put a little bit of luck into it. I feel like really with these guys, getting better at them kind of changes, rolling a dice from rolling a 1 to 6 to getting a headshot to rolling like a 3 to 6. It pretty much doubles your chances, but it's still kind of up to the enemy and just kind of up to luck, I guess you could say, unless you're really in close range. Now, I guess going back to the example of being situational, a really good example of this would be Winston right now. Winston's a character, well, if he's in the back line with the supports, he can just take them out, and there's not much that they can do about it. He just walks back there and kills them. But if the enemy team happens to have a lot of good tanks that no one to switch, or I guess really no one to turn around and go after the Winston, he instantly becomes very, very useless. So when you're picking him up, you have to decide, is this a time when the tanks are busy enough that I can go for the backline, or is this a time where the tanks could easily turn around, or could I maybe bait all the tanks to turn around and then have my team go in? There's a lot of cool mind games that you can do with these characters, such as Winston, which you really can't do as many other people. But at the same time, if you pull off the mind games at the wrong time, you're really screwing over your team. The phrase that I would really use for these characters is high risk versus high reward. And the thing about them that kind of makes them not always wanted to be picked is the fact that if you're playing ranked, if you're just playing a lot of games, you don't really want to have to risk the situations to show up. You want to play a character like Soldier that can work decently in every situation, or play a character like Reinhardt that works pretty great in every situation, instead of playing someone that might work amazing, but might be completely terrible. Which I guess does just kind of end up going to, do you want to risk it for the biscuit, or do you want to be someone that's a little bit more reliable on your team comp? I feel definitely for the majority of people, they just rather have somebody that's more reliable, and these characters kind of just don't get played way too often. As well, they are pretty dang hard to actually play well, and if you aren't a very skilled player with them, you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes and barely get any reward for the character, which does make them one of the weakest people in the game. I guess the final and probably the biggest example of this could be the character Sombra. Right now, she doesn't fit in a lot of the time. A lot of the time, she's just not going to be doing the best, and she won't be able to do the job that a lot of the other people can do. But at the same time, right now, she's one of the only characters that, if you play her well with your team, can counter the tank meta. It's very hard, and you do have to be very knowledgeable. You have to know when to go in, you have to know when to tell your team to go in, you have to know exactly what to do, how to flank the supports, but she's one of the only characters that can actually do it, that can actually pull it off and beat these people. So, I don't know. I think that's one of the best examples that we can really apply to right now. Very situational, very hard to pull off, but bring something to the table that no one else can, which is really exhilarating and really makes her one of the strongest picks in the game when she is picked well, but also one of the weakest when you don't know how to play her right. And that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Just talking about the strongest and the weakest characters, in my own opinion, at the same time. Now going over these guys again, Torbjorn, Junkrat, Hanzo, Winston, Sombra, and somewhat Widowmaker. There's a few other characters as well, but I feel like these guys are like the main contenders for this spot. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy the video, as always, make sure to leave a like, a comment down below what you're thinking about this topic. I know this wasn't like a tip video. This was kind of just talking about character balance, character analysis. Tell me if you enjoyed this, or if you didn't, I could just go straight back to the tips and just kind of wanted to give it a try. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a wonderful day.